Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome a very special guest. And we're not talking about Tyler, although you are. It's our little Judah Bubba boy. Say hello. He's like, oh, we love you, Judah boy.
We call him Mr. Perfect.
He is Mr.
He clearly
Perfect.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Are you Mr. Perfect?
You are.
Yeah.
But we are going to do a little video today answering some questions.
Nice one.
Nice little noises, huh? We're gonna answer some of your questions. I put a little box over on Instagram, and we just wanted to introduce you officially to our little boy. This isn't his first YouTube video because we did do a little nighttime with a newborn routine that actually went up today as we're filming this. So check that out if you haven't already. But this is Judah Weston Harlow. He was born on December 5th, so almost.
Do you not like your birthday? Yeah.
Hey, you picked it, bud. Almost 2 weeks after his due date, and he was 8 pounds, 10 ounces, so almost 9 pounds. Got a healthy boy over here.
22 inches long. He's in the 99th percentile for height for newborns, so.
Literally, like, when I'm holding him this way, he, like, extends past my legs already.
He's like almost too long for his bassinet already.
I know, which is really sad. He'll be able to use it for a little while longer.
Yeah.
But I have some notes on my phone. I wrote down some of the questions you guys asked. The first thing I wanted to share, though, is his name meaning. Do you want to share it? So his first name is Judah. We honestly really struggled with finding a baby boy's name. So if you don't know, we waited to find out the gender of baby.
Yep.
So we were having to prepare for like a girl's name and a boy's name. For Judah, that was one of the ones we floated around maybe in like the second trimester somewhere, and kind of just kept coming back to it as our favorite. And then I think what kind of really solidified it for us is we were looking at the meaning of it. And first of all, Judah is the tribe of Israel that Jesus ultimately descends through. So Jesus is called like the lion of the tribe of Judah. And I personally really love lions because they're like a special part in my story, which I'll probably share more at a different time.
And that's become a big theme for everything with him. He got like 3 lions for Christmas.
Yeah.
His Mimis have bought him all kinds of lion onesies and all kinds of stuff.
The one my mom bought him too was like when she found out when we told her we were pregnant, my mom was like, let's go shopping, which I showed a little clip of that in our friends and family finding out we're pregnant video. But she's like, let's go shopping. And she bought girl stuff and boy stuff. And the little boy stuff she bought, which at this point we had no idea what the name was going to be or like the lion imagery or anything. But the very first thing she bought for him was a little lion onesie.
And we weren't even considering Judah at that point.
No,
we
had no names.
That hadn't even crossed our mind, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we loved that it had the lion imagery, and then it's again the tribe that Solomon and David and ultimately Jesus descends through. But then we were looking at the meaning, and if you didn't know, he was actually due on Thanksgiving. Didn't come on Thanksgiving.
But he was due.
He was due on Thanksgiving, and his name means thanksgiving or praise in Hebrew, or to thank or to praise. We were like, oh, how cool is that? Because like, what if he's born on his due date? But even though he wasn't, like, that was his due date, and we just love
that meaning. That's
just something we've said since the beginning, is whenever we look at that little face, he's just a huge reason we thank and praise God for this precious little gift. So that's his first name.
So Weston is his middle name, which also happens to be my name. Or my middle name, I mean, which also happens to be my dad's middle name, which also happens to be my grandpa's middle name, which also happens to be his dad's name. I don't even know how many Harlows before me, but a long, long line of Harlows have the middle name Weston, so I share it with my grandpa, my dad, and now my son, which is super, super special. So that's how we arrived on Weston for the middle name.
So Judah Weston, and we both really love the name and felt like it went well with Judah too. That's his name.
Judah Weston Harlow. Was that you?
That's you. I'm gonna get us into the questions now. Before I do, I wanted to share what I'm wearing. This little zip or like snap hoodie is from Hatch Girl. I just have to say that all of their stuff is like my absolute favorite postpartum nursing clothes so far. This is not sponsored, but they did send me some stuff, and then I reached out asking like, hey, do you want to send me some more? Because I literally wear it every single day. So if you're a new mama or if you're a nursing mom and you're looking for comfy clothes that are like still make you feel put together, definitely check them out. I'll have them linked below. Let's get into the questions. So some of you sent questions, and some of you on my little box thing just sent encouragement saying like, I remember what the newborn season is like. You guys have got this, praying for you. And I just wanted to say thank you for those of you who did send in encouragement, and thank you for your prayers, because there's definitely the rough parts of being new parents, as amazing as it is. And so we just appreciate your prayers and encouragement. And
Not
it's just
even
like
rough, just challenging.
Just challenging. But it's also like
growing experiences.
Sanctifying. Anyway, so the first question, or a lot of questions I got, were about the birth story. So like some people asking, did I like the experience? experience? Was it what I hoped? Was it different? How was it different than expectations? And let's just say it was very different than what we expected and planned for. And we kind of just been taking time to process through it, but we do plan to film like an entire birth story video. And so I'm not gonna really answer that question in this video because it'll probably be a long video, but as much as it didn't go to plan, we really saw God's hand in it. And I feel like it really brought us close together too, and we're excited to share the story, and we'll probably do that in like a couple weeks. Next question, did you have a feeling Judah was going to be a boy? You want to answer this one?
I called girl from the very beginning since we found out we were pregnant, and I didn't really have that strong of a sense for the most part. I was just like 50-50 shot. 50-50 shot, so I gotta choose one and just stick with it, because if you just flip back and forth like, oh, I think this, and I think this, and I think this, and it's pointless. So you gotta choose one, stick with it. So that's what I did. I thought it was going to be a girl, or that's what I picked at least. But I feel like the closer we got to the due date, I became more and more convinced that it was going to be a girl. And so then in one of the videos you can hear when we first got to see him for the very first time, I got to call out, "It's a boy," which was an amazing, perfect moment. Can remember that exact moment for the rest of our lives.
Do you remember
it was
that moment,
so special.
Judah?
Once we got to that moment, I honestly was surprised when I saw.
We both were.
Yeah, we were both pretty surprised, I guess, when
but the
I thought it was a boy.
Surprise.
Yes.
I honestly, in the very beginning of the pregnancy, kind of thought it was a boy, and then like throughout the middle was kind of back and forth, and also back and forth on like what we wanted, because of course everybody's like, what do you want? And the answer is like, you want a happy baby, but then it's like, what do you want? I honestly feel like I went back and forth, but then like towards the end of the pregnancy, I did kind of start to think it was a girl, and part of it was that, like I said, we were back and forth for a while on a boy name, but we were pretty solidified from like halfway through the pregnancy on a girl's name. And then there was kind of like a cool realization about the meaning of the girl's name that made me think like, oh, maybe because we have like a solidified girl's name, it is a girl. And I did also get another question on what were our girl names. We're not going to share because if we have a girl, we will still use that name. But so I did start to think towards the end that it was a girl. And then in labor and delivery, a couple of the like nurses were like, I feel like it's a girl. So that made me think that even more. So for that fact alone, they were all wrong. For that fact alone. And it's funny because we had like some of our friends who were like, I am confident it's a boy, and some who were like, I'm confident it's a girl.
Yep.
And then after they were like, haha, told you so. The ones who said it was a boy. I honestly, like, all growing up, always pictured myself having a boy first and wanted like the boy to be the older brother. So we are very, very thankful for Mr. Judah boy. Hardest part of parenting so far, anything that took you by surprise. I think the hardest thing for me so far, there's obviously like the nights where sleep is a challenge, and that's like just practically hard. But I think for me, and it wasn't really something I was expecting, but just anxiety, and I'll probably make like a whole video on sort of like new mom anxiety, and not in the way that at least I've experienced anxiety before, but kind of just like this general almost restlessness of like, oh, is he okay? Or like just a big part of it too is like thinking through future stuff. So after he was born, my parents were down here in San Diego for the first like a little over 2 weeks of his life. They were here for 3 weeks before that waiting for him, and we had so much help. Like they were coming over every single day. They were staying with Tyler's parents, then coming over every day. And so there was just like this continual feeling of like, okay, I was able to do this thing today, whether it was just like taking care of him or getting something done that needed to get done. But like, how am I going to do that when my mom's not here helping me so much, or Tyler's back at work because he's been off, thankfully. And so just continually playing out future scenarios in my head of like, okay, I was able to do this today because my mom helped me, or because Tyler's here, or because Tyler's mom came over and helped. But like, how am I going to do this when it's just me at home? And just like that continual restlessness of like, these things that need to get done, which I'm a huge to-do list person, and I've always been like a huge futuristic thinker, so like, which is good on the planning side of things, but then it can lead to the anxiety. Yeah, I feel like that's just been a thing, because it's just this feeling of restlessness in my mind, and this is like the season of life I've always most looked forward to. I want to just be fully present in it, and so I feel like that's a big thing God's been teaching me, which was another question, is just to truly be present in each day and to be dependent on him for each moment, and to see his provision in each day, and to not worry about tomorrow, like, well, how am I going to do this in this scenario? Because the reality with a newborn is that like no day looks the same, so there's no point in like playing through, well, how would I do this exact thing on another day, because that day is going to be its own day and look totally different and have its own challenges. So I feel like I've just been praying a lot that God would help me to take captive my thoughts and to just be not worry about tomorrow. I feel like I need to memorize that passage from Matthew 6 that talks about like, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has its own troubles, and like God has clothed the birds of the air and the lilies of the field and stuff. Bless you.
Big sneeze.
So that's mine. And just like on the note of anxiety, I wanted to mention that I always have linked below a link to BetterHelp, which is Christian counseling online. They'll pair you with a therapist. I have like a therapist I see online every couple weeks, and it's just like helpful, especially if you're a verbal processor like me.
Yep.
And so if you ever want or are looking for that resource, you can get 10% off with my link below. But what about you? What would you say has been the hardest thing so far?
Let's see. I don't know if it was unexpected because I feel like we have a lot of friends with kids and stuff who kind of prepped us and would always tell us stuff or, But yeah, so a lot of the cliche things like sleep deprivation is definitely a very real thing, and just growing in patience and like interruptibility and just realizing that your schedule is just not your own whatsoever anymore, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, okay, I'm okay with changing a diaper, I can do this, that's totally fine. Right as you're putting on the last little Velcro latch of the diaper, he just goes everywhere and it leaks out all over the changing table, and so now you got to take it back off. Yeah, is that what you do sometimes? So then changing the diaper, which you thought was going to take 1 minute, and then you get to crawl back in bed while mama feeds him at 3 a.m. turns into 5 minutes, which I know sounds really, really lame to say, but
when it's your 10th time doing it.
Yeah, and you're just like totally out of it in a daze in the middle of the night, Honestly, hard to be patient sometimes, and then sometimes he finishes feeding and then he just won't go back to sleep. And so you're sitting with him trying to get him to go to sleep for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. And you just want to go to sleep so bad. You can tell he's tired, but for whatever reason, he just won't fall asleep. And you're just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm just gotta be patient and let him interrupt the schedule that I want him to have or that I want to have for myself, and just fully serve him. So, yeah.
I think it's like a very humbling experience in that, like, I feel like in other parts of life, it's like, if I do this and this, then here's going to be the outcome. And then with him, it's like, you could do everything exactly the same. Get him changed, get him fed, and then put him down, he goes to sleep, and then he does it, and then one time he does and one time he doesn't. And so it's those moments when you're like, well, I did it, why aren't you doing, like, you falling asleep now? And it's like, again, like you said, 3 a.m. and you're super tired. And so I agree that that's been hard. And just like the nights that he hasn't slept well, but then some nights he sleeps great, and we're still figuring all that out. He's 3 weeks, 2 days ago, as we're filming this. Another person asked, how are you recovering physically and mentally? Mentally, I kind of already talked about that, just like trying to really take captive my thought life. And then physically, I will share more in the birth story, but I honestly feel like my recovery's been really good. I feel like I'm getting around okay. The one thing is just back pain, and I think that's like upper back, shoulder back pain. And I think that's just from like breastfeeding and stuff, which I try to have good support, and have been using the My Breast Friend pillow, which I had a different one before, and then Tyler's mom brought that one over, and it's been a game changer. So
Kaci mostly likes it because she loves puns. So My Breast Friend.
True.
That's her favorite part about it.
But if you're looking for a good one, it has really good back support. Even so, my back has just been really sore. So if you are a mama and you dealt with back pain and you have any tips for me, let me know, because I feel like that's the big thing. But physically, I feel like I'm recovering fairly well. What'd you say? Another person asked, how has it been having to try and have a quiet time and focusing on God as a mom? I'm still learning, honestly. Most days my quiet time is just in my little prayer journal, which I have linked below, but I have like the Val Marie yearly prayer journal where you can write out gratitude lists or journal your prayers and track prayers for your month. I'll just like write in things I'm grateful for that day or little prayers, and like that's honestly really been the extent of my quiet times. And then also reading through a devotional, that Tyler's dad wrote for Advent that did stop on Christmas, so it did just end, but it's just like a quick little 2-minute, a couple verses in Luke and then a reflection. And so I was doing that, but I do plan to, for the new year, start the Grace Bible Plan, which is by How to Faith a Life here on YouTube. Her name is Faith, and she has a Bible plan that is 270 days, but it's a year plan. So that basically leaves 1 to 2 grace days every week. So if there's a day you don't get to it, or if you're behind, and I'm really looking forward to that, because for like 4 years in a row, I did a really regimented Bible plan and I loved it. And then last year I was like, I don't want to have a plan because I feel like it became a to-do list for me. And so I'm just going to pick a book and kind of read through it. And I just found, for me personally, I need the structure of a plan. And so I feel like my quiet times weren't as consistent this past year, or like in depth. I knew that I couldn't go back to this super regimented plan because your schedule, at least now as a new mom with a newborn, is just like, it's just not realistic. I need to have like grace and flexibility. So I'm hoping that this will be a really good one for me. If you want to check it out, I have a link to the plan down below. And then another thing I shared in our nighttime routine video is I do try to spend like his feedings around half the time praying, just like being really intentional in praying and stuff. And I feel like that's a really sweet time of connecting with him and connecting with God, and just realizing that I feel like I've heard so many moms say, like, don't beat yourself up that your quiet time can't look like what it looked like before you had kids, because it's a whole new season. But it's finding those times to meet with God and to read his word in little pockets of your day, how you can make that work. And so that's how it's been so far, but obviously still learning.
You've been finding different times to be able to prioritize like prayer and stuff too, and so it looks different as well. And so it's like when you're nursing or something, I know you've talked about how you spend a little bit of time catching up with friends, like half the time, and then half the time you spend praying, which is really, really cool. And I feel like one of the ways that you can figure out how to just reorder things rather than just being like, oh, well, I didn't read my Bible today, I guess I failed at my quiet time. It's like, okay, well, what other ways can I spend time with God? Obviously, reading your Bible is definitely one of the absolute best ways, you know. But there's times when you got to feed and gonna spend some time praying.
And even this morning, his like really early morning feed, I'm gonna insert a picture of the sunset we had this morning because
was epic.
It was insane. His like morning feeding ended at like 6:30, and our routine is kind of Tyler will get him up and change him, then bring him to me to feed. And Tyler opened the curtains a little when he went to change him. We're like, this morning I opened up like the YouVersion Bible app, and it has like the verse of the day. And not gonna lie, I feel like this is so prideful, but I feel like before I'd always be like, I'm not just gonna read a verse of the day. Like, in order for a quiet time to count, it has to be like a whole chapter or like 2 chapters. I just like opened up the verse of the day, and it was actually the verse right before my all-time favorite verse. So it was 2 Corinthians 3:17. My favorite is 3:18. Go read it. 3:17 says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And I was like, you know what? If this is the only verse I read today, I'm just going to remember that and repeat it to myself and meditate on it. And that truth that, like, even what I was talking about with anxiety, like, God, where your spirit is, there is freedom. And so just fill me with your spirit. Let me walk by your spirit today and experience that freedom of not worrying about tomorrow and of being in today and experiencing your peace. And so just kind of like pridefully laying down, like, it doesn't have to look like this super in-depth study today. 5 minutes or 1 minute is better than no minutes. And so.
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of just have to reiterate what Kaci said, and I guess what we've been saying the whole time. I don't have really anything to add. I think it will look different. I've been very, very blessed to be able to have this whole time off since he's been born. I haven't had to do pretty much any work. I did some stuff for church for Christmas, and which was really, really awesome. But as far as working during the day, I haven't had to work at all, which will change starting next week. So, yeah. So it'll be. I feel like that'll be a whole new thing for both of us, you know, to kind of navigate and whatnot. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of new changes that happen. You know, we were even watching like a sleep course, and they were talking about how they're like, here's your ideal schedule for, you know, putting your newborn down and then them waking up and feeding and playing for a little bit and da-da-da. And so here's what the ideal timeline would look like. But you have to realize that never, ever, not once will your newborn ever follow this schedule.
Like, cool.
And it's like, here's something to shoot for, but it's never actually gonna work out perfectly, you know. Off the top of my head right now, I feel like that's almost how it is with like being a Christian, you know, and knowing like the law and what God wants for us. It's like, okay, here's what perfection would look like, which is what Jesus looks like. But you also have to realize that you are never ever, not once ever, any day of your life, gonna actually hit the mark of being perfect and having that perfect life, having that perfect schedule, whatever it is. And you just have to realize that our righteousness, our perfection comes only through Jesus alone and his death and resurrection on the cross. Yeah, that's the only way that we can ever uphold the law, because Jesus did what the law was not able to do by dying on the cross.
And really quick, the sleep course Tyler was referencing is Taking Care of Babies, which I'll also have linked below. Another thing kind of for you answering, or like to adding to what you said about the quiet time, is Tyler's been reading Judah, the Jesus Storybook Bible, and it's usually just you two reading it. Like maybe like after I feed, he'll read to him and I'll go shower or something. But a couple of times I've sat in on it, and honestly, it's amazing. It's a kid's Bible, but every single story, it puts it into like kids level understanding, but then always points back to Jesus, which is the point of the Bible. Like every story is meant to point us to who Jesus is, and this kid's Bible does such a good job of that. And so I feel like even something like that, not to like speak for you, but I feel like that's a thing too, where it's like, okay, if I didn't get my quiet time with deep study and going in and praying and everything today, even just like reminders of who God is, who Jesus is, through reading that to him.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's just another example of reworking, like, okay, we have to kind of readjust what we think this has to look like, and realize like any opportunity to commune with God and know him more, that spending time with him, that's your quiet time, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Advice for someone who's wanting to become parents, I imagine this is like preparing for parenthood. My thing would just be to say, you know, do everything you can right now to just like practice selflessly serving your spouse, because parenthood is like a whole new level of just like self-sacrifice and laying yourself down and serving another little tiny amazing human being. And so the more you can practice that with your spouse and just kind of laying down like you I think that that's like good preparation, but even so, it's like, it's just next level. So there's nothing you can really do to prepare, but that's, I think, a good practice.
Yep. Talk to your friends that have kids or people, you know, at your church or other friends that you have, whatever, and just so that you can get their perspective, because we know it's definitely different for everybody. And our story is one thing, and it's even going to be different from what we hear from talking to our friends. It's different with every kid. Every kid is totally different in their sleep schedule at the beginning and their overall personality and stuff, of course, long term and all that good stuff. Of course, as your family grows, it's different having 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4 versus 13, like one of my aunts has.
Literally.
Yep, that's not an exaggeration.
13 cousins in one family.
Yep. But anyway, trying to talk to as many people as you can. Know that you're going to be interrupted, especially your sleep is going to be interrupted.
Next, somebody said, any regular prayers you prayed over Judah before and now? I feel like we mainly just prayed like generally that baby, because we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, would be healthy, and that baby would come to know Jesus at a young age and know Jesus intimately, follow him all the days of his or her life, which is a his.
I mean, before he was born too, not as regularly. Now we do this every single night as we pray the blessing from number 6 over him. But we definitely did that. We weren't as consistent with that before he was born, but we definitely did that fairly regularly, I feel like, before he was born. But yeah, definitely every single night now.
And that's something Tyler's always prayed over me too, and so now it's special because we prayed over Judah together, and then we crawl in bed and Tyler still prays it over me. I'll link an Instagram post of mine below sharing like why that was a special thing that Tyler prays that over me. And then another thing is a verse we really like from Luke 2. It says, and Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. And so that's kind of another verse that we've talked about a couple of times that we
I think my dad
that was
initially...
a good catch. Look at that dad reflex.
But yeah, I think my dad was the first one to actually
so
mention
too.
that. And then we were just like, whoa, that's perfect. He's like, what more could you want for your grandson?
How do you prioritize your marriage now / how is your relationship different? We're 3 weeks in, so it's like we're not at the point yet where we figured out a rhythm of like date nights and stuff, but I do feel like we've been really good at just like encouraging each other, and like the moments that like I'm getting impatient or frustrated, you're encouraging me and giving grace to me, and like vice versa. And how is it different? I feel like we just have less time that's just us two, but it's almost like now we have like this very clear joined mission of like caring for and raising this little baby boy, which I feel like just makes us feel like a team, and it's really uniting and just like, I don't know, heartwarming to feel like teammates in it all, you know?
I mean, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think it's definitely changed in some positive ways though too, like going through like labor, obviously Kaci really going through labor, but me being able to be by her side, you know, and then with just Judah being born and being parents together and all of that, like we were absolutely 100% on each other's teams before and like in each other's courts and loved each other. We didn't think that we could be any more in love really, you know? But then in just being parents together, and like Kaci said, that camaraderie has just been like a whole nother level of just like partnership and just feeling like I feel super encouraged and loved by Kaci, and I feel like a good dad because Kaci tells me I am, you know, even though I'm totally not perfect.
But like watching the person you love, your spouse, become a parent, like watching Tyler become a dad is just like next level love, you know? Somebody asked for, can you share what like a full day routine looks like with a baby? Routine is just a funny word with a newborn because it doesn't really exist. If you want to see like a day in the life vlog, comment down below and I could definitely do that. Last question, if you've made it through all the way to this video, comment below a blue heart emoji because you a real one. But the last question is, what is your favorite versus least favorite part of motherhood? And then we'll also spin it to fatherhood for you. For me, my favorite parts are just like we were talking about before, the moments that he looks at you, or the moments where he smiles, which right now it's not like a social smile where he knows he's smiling, but it's like the little like, it just makes my heart so happy. And getting to cuddle him and just see his little face and love him. Also, I really loved breastfeeding. I feel like it's just a really special time to connect with him, and I think it's just amazing that God designed our bodies as women to be able to like produce what he needs to survive. Like that's wild. And thankfully that's been going pretty well for us. So it felt like a huge answer to prayer, especially after labor, of like, thank you, Lord, that this part has come with like relative ease. We had a lot of help and like tips from lactation consultants. But anyways, those are probably some of my favorite parts. Least favorite parts is kind of what I was referencing before, just like the restlessness in my own mind, which I feel like had that tendency before, but really just like the unpredictability, because I'm somebody I feel like who really does thrive on routines and being able to plan exactly what my day is going to look like and having to really let go of that. But I also know, like I said before, that I feel like God is really growing me a lot in that and teaching me to just be really present in each day and dependent on him. And I know that that's a huge part of parenting in general is sanctification. And so I feel like God just freeing me from some of those like control tendencies and stuff. And so even though it's least favorite or it's hard, that doesn't mean bad. It's good in the sense that God is using using it to make me look more like him. And so, what about you, babe?
Yeah, favorite parts. I mean, just staring at him and getting to sit with him and cuddle with him and read with him and play with him and just do all the things. I never ever want to go back to work because I just want to spend all my time with Mommy and Judah.
We don't want you to go back to work.
Never ever. Yeah.
Can life just be free?
Yeah. We just want to be together all the time. So that's definitely my favorite thing. And I don't know, I feel like when he was born, I was just like, this is like tangibly holding the goodness of God in our arms, you know? Like we think of it and we're thankful for it and thankful for so many different blessings in our lives, but for whatever reason, like just holding Judah is like the tangible goodness of God. Like he's just been so good to us and we're so blessed and can't credit it to anything except for just the grace of the Lord. And yeah, most challenging thing is just the patience, learning to just be patient and be okay with things not going the way that you want them to. But I'm definitely not looking forward to going back to work because I'll be away from them, but then also like right now, we can put him down, like if he feeds at 6 a.m. and he goes until 6:30, you know, we can put him back down. Or if he feeds at 5, you know, we can put him back down at 5:30 or 6 or whatever. And then we can have another couple hours of sleep while he sleeps again.
If he lets us.
If he lets us, which isn't always, but in general. But when I go back to work, that's not going to happen anymore. And so it's not like we can sleep. I won't be able to sleep during the day to catch up, you know. I think that's going to be, it'll probably hit me a little bit harder then, but.
Once again, pray for us in those transitions. We know that everybody goes through them, but they're hard transitions. Yeah. And we answered. Nailed it.
Good job, Mama.
Good job, Dada. We love you, Judah boy. Anywho, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this video and our long, rambly answers. This is, I don't even know how long at this point, but thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And then if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. That's a huge way that you can help to support my channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye.